Hey my friends, Shawn here from theautomationschool.com, and in this episode of the Automation Podcast, I sit down with Jeff Brown from Mitsubishi to take a look at their line of HMIs. Jeff, thank you for putting this together today.
No problem, Shawn.
Can you introduce yourself for our audience?
Sure. My name is Jeff Brown. I'm an industry sales specialist at Mitsubishi Electric Automation.
And today we're going to be taking a look at your HMI line.
I'm going to introduce our GOT2000 HMI product overview. So as you can imagine, the 2000 is the latest and greatest to the GOT1000, which was our last line of HMIs that were out there. So we're just going to begin with a quick overview of the HMI line. Sorry, I have a little delay in my response there. There's two slides here. So there's 4 HMI models. So one thing we've done is really tried to provide a scalable, cost to performance line of HMIs from the high end down to, when you don't need as much functionality and you're concerned more with cost. So that starts with the GT27 being the higher end. And as you can see here, the range goes from 15-inch down to 5.7-inch. And there is both widescreen models on that and what you would refer to as standard screen. So that's when you see the XGA, SVGA, VGA. That's, really it's relating to your pixel size. And I would say pixel size is the best way, if you're trying to compare HMIs to, look at that pixel size and just don't take our word that it's wide or standard or what it is. So there's, as you can see with these models, you'll see a white version and a black version. You'll notice the white versions are clean as far as there's no ports on the front. And then the black versions will have a little compartment here where you have USB connectivity in. So there's the GT27, 25, and then moving on to the lower range, we have the GT21 and then a GS. So think S for simple. And this is kind of a little different in that our simple we did in a 7 and 10 inch. And if you think about screen displays and the technology used on iPhones, Samsungs, the display cost is going down. So, for again, looking at cost to performance, we can effectively offer a 7 or 10 inch, in a cost-effective HMI, and most of our customers like having a little more real estate on the screen to work with, and you notice that they are a wide screen as well. But we do also offer, a smaller 4.3 inch wide or a 4-inch, a 3.8 inch. And these could be for just simple, really basic applications. I mean, I've seen applications for a bagel cutting machine, right? That's going in a restaurant that you don't need a lot of HMI functionality, but you want to make your machine smarter than having some push buttons. That's where those screens can come in. So then we have a line of special purpose, and starting with what we call our handies. So it's the same programming software, same screens, they're just connected. Since we do make robotics as well, they're used a lot with robots, they're used a lot with CNCs, and they're used for PLC applications as well. And then there's a rugged version, so it has a broader temperature range, a brighter screen, an IP67F rating higher vibration for, mobile applications, and that is in a 7-inch. And then there's an open frame. So if you're doing a stainless wash down environment, you can mount this, behind the stainless steel panel. There's overlay that goes on top of it, so you have a nice clean design. It's great for OEMs because it's your machine, it's your HMI. You don't need to advertise Mitsubishi Electric, and it's part of your system. So just real quick, we'll go through some simple part number layout. It's really straightforward. You have your model, you have your screen size, then you have as I said, the resolution, so that's X, S, V, or W. Then you have your color. You'll see in some of these other ones there is a monochrome version. That bezel we talked about, and then your power. So the 25, you notice here we add the WX into the resolution. Those are color. Your bezels here, you actually have a silver option, and then your power option. Here we go to the 21, same thing, your screen size, your resolutions, color or monochrome in this case, black, silver, and then in this case you have a 24-volt power or a 5-volt power. Finally, we got the basic, and as you can see, pretty basic. And then your color, and then your power. So let's just go through a little more detail on these product offerings so you see what's under the hood. We'll start with the 27 and the 25. First of all, let's look in the upper right. We have the layout of the unit. You'll notice you have Ethernet. I'm going to mention Ethernet first because that's very important. The widescreen models have 2 Ethernet ports, and they are 2 different subnets. The standard models have 1 Ethernet port, but as you'll see, there's an expansion bay here. You can add another Ethernet port on another subnet. So that comes in real handy as HMIs become this link between the IT, OT layer. You can have one down, connecting down, and one connecting up.
Nice.
You got an SD card slot. That just takes a commercial available card slot. Of course, we offer them as well. And that can be used for a lot of different things. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into some other areas. But I would say you can use it for data logging, HMI program backup restore, even PLC backup restore as well. And then you have a side interface. We'll talk about some of the options available, but you got an option there for a wireless LAN option so that the HMI can communicate wirelessly. And then you have several USB. USB device is for programming. That's for downloading to the device firmware. One thing about Mitsubishi is we use USB on our products because it's an easy driver to install on Windows. It gives you a really easy, straightforward connection. You can do it over Ethernet as well, but we always put USB on there. And then you have hosts. So that could be a USB stick, that could be a keyboard, that could be a mouse. With this, as I said, this is the higher end. So what makes that higher end is, longer screen backlight. So you have 60,000 hours on the screen backlight. You have multi-touch gestures. So you can zoom in on a screen and zoom out, or
Nice.
slide screen. And then You know, things like here's the human sensor. So it'll sense if someone's in front of it and turn on, which can, you know, further increase your bulb life. So GT21, I think the main point here is you have SD card and you have Ethernet still, plus your RS, you know, 45, 232. You can still do logging, I think is important as well, and trending. So getting down to the simple, here you're getting pretty basic with just Ethernet, but you still can do an SD card, and you have USB. So on the 21, really when you come to trending and those things, you start to get limited to how much you can do with it on the smaller ones. Like you'll have one trend graph on a screen and like 4 pens versus the larger units.
Okay.
So this is just straight out of the product selection guide, which I'll show you, but here's the, again, how those part numbers break out, the screen sizes, the resolutions, and then your different types and the part numbers. Same on the GT25. There's your 12, 10 inches, 8.4. And again, this is there's a wide version and there's a standard version. And then your GT21 and GS21. And then your special purpose. So on the handy, there's a 7-inch and a 6-inch. And the rugged is just a 7-inch. And then there's your open frame types down at the bottom. So as far as accessories, just to highlight a few of this, these are those option units for the expansion. You have a USB printer unit for attaching to USB printers, a multimedia unit, a video input unit.
Oh, nice.
So this could be for video cameras, an RGB input unit. This is a new one, an HDMI output unit on the 27. So, say you have a production area and you want to display what's on that HMI on like a big screen TV, you just add that in and it will output that to that.
So it's like a mirror.
Screen.
So it's just going to mirror what's on the display on the other HDMI output?
Yep. Just outputs it on the HDMI. Sound output unit. There's actually an external I/O unit. There's no logic in the HMI, but you can add I/O. There is a scripting language, but we don't see a lot of use for this because usually your I/O is on your PLC, but if for some reason you needed it, it's there.
Would you be able to drive like an alarm beacon or a stack light or something with that?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, and and there's a scripting language. I mean, if there was some basic inputs and outputs you needed and you were just doing something in the HMI, you could do it with that. There's an Ethernet unit, as I mentioned before, for additional subnet, and then there's the wireless LAN. Really a lot about an HMI, besides what we've gone through with the hardware, is the software, right? It's how you configure it, it's what capabilities you have in there. The software for the programming the GOTs is called GTWorks 3. And it's we talked about with the PLC, we have GXWorks, so they're two separate packages, but there is the ability, to integrate PLC labels. Obviously we have a tight integration with the PLC as far as, how you set up. But it's got a ton of libraries in there of template that you can use. as far as, using existing screen data, multi-language support, and, pretty easy to use with several areas of getting to different instructions. You can get to them from the top, you can get to them from the right, you have your project trees on the left. So we'll get into a little bit about what's in that software and how it all, comes together. And I'll just start with connectivity, because that's usually one of the first things you're going to do is, connect this to your controller.
Absolutely.
And, we do have pretty extensive support for main PLC vendors. And I would even say, as a, headquartered in Japanese, you can see we do pretty good with covering all the Koyos, the Omrons, the Kians. There's some in here I've never heard of before, but we cover all the big ones. You're going to see Siemens, Schneider, Rockwell, General Modbus as well.
So this is all built in. There's nothing extra. Like if I had one of these units in front of me, I could hook it up to my S7 or my Compact Logics. No extra costs?
Correct.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's a nice function in the software where you can create a data gateway between two. Say you have two tags, you just point and click, and you can link that tag mapping. So that makes it nice if you have multi-vendors PLCs. And say you had a Mitsubishi PLC that you're using your HMI and you wanted to do some logic in the Mitsubishi PLC, but you needed some data from, say a third-party PLC. You can, just by clicking in the software, link that data coming in from the third-party PLC to map over to the tag that's, on the Mitsubishi side. So, you don't have to write anything to do that. It's just a simple setup. So, back to that point of this being a nice kind of OT to IT, that the combination of driver and ease of use helps with that. So another one I'm going to bring up, because this comes up a lot, and I get this question a lot in the HMI world, is can you do some data manipulation on your values? And you have that ability in here. So, if you have just call it tag, we call them labels. You can go in and, say like here, I have a number value, but I want to add, I want to scale it or add another value to it for the display. That is possible to do within the software. Alarm monitoring and display. So, you have an alarm function. You can set up alarms. You can set up security levels on alarms. You can set up ranges on the alarms. You can send alarms by email. Another one that I see asked a lot again is users of PLCs, they will have a word of data, and they will set up that word with bits being different alarm values in their PLC, and then they want to bit pick that on the HMI side. So that also is possible to do within the software and the HMI. Data logging and trending, this is really nice if you tie this with a GT27 with multi-touch, because you can zoom in on a trend and zoom out with your multi-touch. But, you could have, on the high end, you could have 32 different trend graphs on a screen and 32 lines on one of those trends. Not that you would need that much information on there, but you could do it.
Nice.
you also have the ability to do what's called historical trends. So you're tying a logging function to a trend. And that way, you can go back in time to see, when things go bump in the night, you can go see what was going on. With your logging, you have the ability to, set up time samplings for those logs. You can set up multiple log files, and then you have quite a bit of flexibility with how you save those. You can save them just to a file in, Mitsubishi format. You can save them to CSV format. You can save them to an SD card. You could map it to a network drive. A lot of the HMIs have an FTP server built in, and that's a nice way of being able to go grab data off of the HMI. You can just hit that FTP server. Okay, recipe management. It's in there. We keep increasing the functionality, and I don't say that in a bad way, right? Because everyone has recipe management, and I'm not an expert on it. As far as what you can do, you can quickly change multiple parameters. If you're doing production changeover, you can modify and save new recipes. You can search through recipes as far as, records. So that capability is in there. Document display. One thing I will emphasize, and I probably should emphasize this is the front, we are not Windows CE based. This is, we're beyond that. We've been beyond that forever. So, the main base OS of the system is not going anywhere. But with that, we've got to add in all of the capabilities to handle PDFs, Excels, Word documents, which, that is all in there. But with PDFs, there's a viewer that allows you to zoom in, zoom out, and really, interact with a PDF. So, that's really relevant from a manual and maintenance and troubleshooting aspect.
Yeah, is that built into every unit, or the units that support it? It just comes built in?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yep. Talked about video and multimedia. There's, you could provide audio instructions, so there's ability to play audio, based on troubleshooting instructions. You could play videos as well and record video of events both before and after occurrence if you have a video system tied in. So, this is the higher end unit, but capability is there. Scripts. I think this is something that most units will have, but, simple script languages. One thing I've seen in the software is, like doing the expression. That's, you don't have to go to a script to write a little simple tag expression. It's built into the user interface. But, you do get into situations more with data handling, where, you may want to get into some scripting. Security, that is something we have further looked to, improve and add more role-based security models. There's options for RFID or barcode access where, an operator has to have the proper RFID or barcode access to get in. And then also you have the ability to track operations performed by each operator. There is even in our documentation a full CFR part 2111 and how you design HMIs, around that and
Nice.
use all the functionality built into the HMI, for those stringent regulated activities, which, even in food are becoming more prevalent with food safety. So We talked about the software, as far as some of the things that might be different than other HMIs, and some of these might be there. If you have a full Mitsubishi system, you can store and back up the PLC program from the HMI. So it can be stored on the HMI,
Wow.
including doing automatic backup at certain times of the day. Servo Connectivity. One thing we've done with our HMIs is there's a system screen, which means they're built in. So there's certain things that are just part of that OS we've designed for getting information from our components, along with, just like everyone else, we do templates and screens that allow you to get in as well. I think the differentiator is at a system level, without even programming anything or dumping a template, there's information you get on like the servos or drives. So, you can look at multiple axes, pre-configured screens to access alarms and diagnostics information, visualize servo waveform data before and after alarms. So if there's an alarm, it actually tracks back in time what was going on with that servo, as well as ahead of time. And don't ask me how it does it. I don't know. So there's an example of tuning. That just ties into the one-touch tuning as far as our servos and, tuning the system. That's already set up and can be done with the HMI operation monitoring. So, looking at counts, pulses, servo speed, alarms, and then amplifier diagnostics, and the same for VFD. We look at, how long has this been on? What, cooling fans are something that seems to always fail. We have a target lifespan of 10 years we're trying to look at, and we're analyzing, basically your mean time before failure if you designed everything proper, and we're just relying on what that servo can do. And then graph waveforms, trends, what's going on with the servo. And then machine diagnostics, actually looking at friction and vibration within the system. And you can set thresholds. So if a machine is running and we're detecting more vibration, over time, we can alarm that system and, help give you information before faults occur. So similar with the VFD, same thing, direct connection to the VFD, no parameter change required on VFD. You can enable an automatic connection feature in the GOT. So it just will connect. Our GOTs will connect to our VFDs directly. And, I would say even in the software, like if I want to set a start bit and I go into the software, it asks me what parameter do I want to pick for that, or if I want to set current. So, there's no little data mapping in the middle where you got to say, oh, I got to transfer that into some other drive terminology or memory place. It's just very straightforward to connect the VFD in, including pre-configured screens for alarms and parameters. So it gives you really an intelligent, a super intelligent, right, operator terminal for your VFD pretty easily. So there's an example screen that you're going to get with your frequencies, currents, what's going on with that. Screen's already built. You can do set points, forward, reverse. parameters. And then here again, machine diagnostics. And then your inverter life, so your capacitor, inrush currents, operation time, that's all monitored, and then your alarm history as well. Finally, we talked about robots. So our HMIs also have drivers and direct connectivity to robots, which, if you ever look at a line, I do a lot in packaging, material handling. The robots are usually tied into some type of PLC for sequencing. With our combination of drivers to tie to PLCs and the fact we can tie to the robot, that could be a good way of getting information and helping manage and monitor, those two components within a system. Not to mention it's, all the functionality for teaching the robot, managing multiple robots, alarms and diagnostics, and then observing, the robot's load ratios and how its maintenance values as well. Wireless connectivity, there's, and I don't know if it's in here, yeah, it is. It'll be in here later. So you can, with the wireless connectivity, you can get access to the machine. We showed the work instructions, as well as troubleshooting. The reason I'm a little off is we have a function called Smart Mobile. There's actually a web server on our HMI that will display mobile design screens. So if you can design a screen specifically for a phone, say, and then different operators could be looking at different screens that are being served up than what's on the main screen, right? That doesn't have to change. So, that's an add-on option, but it gives you a lot of flexibility with mobile access, mobile devices, and displaying the right information. So transparent connectivity, this is with Mitsubishi PLCs. You can go right through the HMI, get to the PLCs, the drives, other devices, program them. And it's a simple wizard that just asks you what you're connecting to, how you need to connect, and then it steps you through that routing.
So I can plug into the USB port on the front of the unit, the ones that have them, the black units. And if the PLC is connected via Ethernet, I can program the PLC? Oh, that's great.
And the HMI can show you the system network that's out there. It'll show you diagnostics for each PLC. It'll show you the PLC rack, what's going on with it, as far as if there's any errors. This is on some of the higher end ones. There's actually, and it's actually not that, there's an MES interface built in to the HMI and in the software. So if you're connecting to, there's certain one, Microsoft Access, I think Oracle, SQL, and there's a list of them. And the reason I'm careful on what I say is we have an MES module that sits in our PLC that's a broader functionality, but that MES interface that's in there is, it's still pretty capable as far as what you can connect to upstream. So it just gives you a way from that IT to OT of tying in, production data, order management systems on a higher level. Warranty, the standard on the high to mid is 3-year standard warranty. And then on the simple is a 1 year. So you'll find with a lot of our products, we have some drives we even have a 5-year warranty. So
That's
just,
excellent.
emphasizing our quality. Support, toll free, 8 to 6. So that's technical assistance. And then there's after hours. So if you're in the US and you call within that time frame, there's no, we don't charge for support. We've got several people manning those lines, and you'll go through I think it's 1 or 2 selections to get you to your HMI, and then you'll get a person.
Is this true for the PLCs as well? I don't think we talked about that when we talked about the PLCs.
Yep, it's true for the PLCs as well.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I use it all the time when I got questions.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
There's some good guys on there, and use them, get them busy, because then we can hire more. So from a summary standpoint, 2 key items I would leave you with is and this is the same with the PLC, there is a product selection guide, which I will pull up here. And there's a selection tool. So there's a configuration tool online. Oh, here's the product selection guide that lists all of the different series, kind of a general overview, and then how the part numbers are defined, and then some general specifications. So I mentioned so it'll have the GT27 series, and then, that'll go down as a, memory, approximate, right, life, backlight life, some of those other details. So that's the selection guide. There's a link for that. And then on our page, and I would recommend, if you're going to be getting into using Mitsubishi, get a login, because that gets you into knowledge base and support, and, gets you to be a member of the support community. There is a selection tool here. And, it's designed around Mitsubishi controllers if you're using Mitsubishi. So if I'm using an IQF, I can pick my model, and then it has all of the types listed. So if I had a simple machine, I could just uncheck, the higher end, or I could leave them all. If I leave them all, it's just going to give me a list of all of them. So if I go with, say, a black widescreen, then if I click on this options, this is kind of nice because it shows me all the options that are available with that, within that model. They're highlighted. So, we talked about that MES function, FTP server, I need mail send, I want human sensor, right? That's all part of that. That's all in that capability. Because if I'd gone here, and let's just go with the GT21. Oh, this guy, go to options. You'll notice now, none of that FTP server is not there. MES interface isn't there. I have logging, I got scripts, I've got trends, I got recipes, I've got operator authentication on there. And then I can set up my connection. So I say I want to connect to the CPU. That one happens to be a serial version. So it's asking for serial. I could connect, say, my link. So I can set up my selection here. So we'll go here. 3, 4 inch. Go with the GS. 7 inch. So I'll go GS. I can do Ethernet. Okay, so it says I can have a max number of 8 connected to that PLC. Gives me my Ethernet. So then it gives me that part number. So it gives me a connection diagram as well. And that is it on the HMIs.
Now that was great. I learned a lot. It was good to see the different models you have and their capabilities. Some really interesting options there as well. So thank you very much, and for putting this together and taking your time out of your day to go over the product line with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, that's it for this episode. I want to thank Jeff Brown from Mitsubishi again for taking the time to go over their line of HMI products with us. And I want to thank you for watching. If you'd like to become an insider and support the show and get free instant rewards, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/automation. And with that said, I just want to wish you all a great week. And until next time, peace.